Hello everyone and welcome to Learnaholic India. So in today's session we are going to cover Java interview questions and answer. These are the most frequently asked interview questions regarding Java. So here is the list of today's interview questions and answer. We will see all the questions one by one. So let's start. The first question is, what is Java? So the answer is this. Java is a high-level programming language which is developed by Sun Microsystems in 1995 by the scientist James Gosling. Java is a platform-independent language. Java is nothing but a collection of objects. Java is also known as for its fast, reliable and security. So in general, Java is a programming language which produces a software for different platforms. When a programmer writes a Java application, the compiled code runs on most operating systems including Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Java derives much of its syntax from C and C++ programming language. Java programs are found in desktop, servers, mobile devices, smart cards and in Blu-ray disc. Next question is, explain the four pillars of OOPS. So, the four pillars of the OOPS are abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance and polymorphism. So, let's see these four pillars one by one. Let's start with what is abstraction. Abstraction is the process of showing the necessary or the essential details or the features of an entity or an object to the outside world and hide the unnecessary or the other irrelevant information. In the programming language, we achieve the abstraction through public and private access modifier and a class. So, in a class, make the things or the features which we want to show as a public, and the things which are irrelevant, we can make them as a private. So, they won't be able to see by the outside world. So the real life example of abstraction is like this. The abstraction could be the gears of the bikes. Do we know what happens inside the engine when we charge the gear? The answer is no. Because what happens inside the engine when we change the gear is irrelevant information from the user's perspective. So we can hide that information. What important from the user's perspective is whether the gear has been changed or not. This is the essential or the necessary feature that must be shown to the user. So, the abstraction says only expose that details which are really matters to the user's perspective and hide the other irrelevant details. The next is, what is encapsulation? So, encapsulation is the process of binding data members, that is the variables or the properties, and the member functions, that is nothing but the methods, together. In object-oriented programming language, we achieve the encapsulation by using the classes. The real-life example of the encapsulation will be the capsule. The capsule binds all the chemical contents which are required for the curing the specific disease together, just like the class which binds the data members and the member functions together. How the encapsulation works as an information hiding mechanism. So as already discussed, the encapsulation is the process of binding the data members and the member functions together. Due to this approach, the contents of the object is generally hidden from the outside world. So by simply making the data members as private, which is nothing but the information hiding. Typically, one of the or the only object's own methods can directly inspect or manipulate its field. So, the outside world only knows what a class does through the member function, but don't know what are its data members and how the class do a specific task. So, hiding the internal of the object or allowing the access to it through only the member function protects the object's integrity by preventing the user from setting the internal data or the component in such a way that may lead to an invalid or inconsistent state of the objects. The next pillar is inheritance. So, the process of creating the new class by extending the existing class is called as inheritance, or the process of inheriting the features of base class is known as inheritance. The existence class is called as the base class, and the new class which is created from the base class is called as the derived class. The real life example of inheritance is that we inherit some of our features, maybe the body color, nose, shape, height of the body, etc. from our parents. So the advantages of the inheritance is that the most important advantage of inheritance is the code reusability. In inheritance, we derived a class which possesses all the attributes and the properties, also the functions of the base class. This is where the code reusability comes into the picture. So no need to write same function and the attributes of the base class in the derived class. Private members of the base class also get inherited into the derived class, but they do not accessible in the derived class. The next is polymorphism. Poly means many and morph means forms. So the polymorphism is the process in which an object or a function takes different forms. The real life example of polymorphism is mobile phone. It is a single object, but it can be used for making calls, listening music, sending mails, taking pictures, etc. The next question is what is meant by local variable and instance variable. So a local variable in Java is typically used in a method, constructor or a block, and it has only a local scope. So you can use the variable only within the scope of a block. Other methods in the class aren't even aware of that variable even exist. The example is shown in the figure. The next is instance variable. An instance variable is a variable that's bound to the object itself. Instance variables are declared inside a class but outside a method, and every instance of that class or object has its own copy of the variable. Changes made to the variable don't reflect in other instances of the class. Instance variables are available to any method bound to an object instance. As a practical manner, this is generally gives its scope within some of the instantiated class objects. When an object is allocated in a heap, there is a slot in it for each instance variable value. Therefore, an instance variable is created when an object is created and destroyed when the object is destroyed. The example is shown in the figure. The next question is what is meant by abstract class? So the answer to this question is an abstract class is a class which is declared by using abstract keyword. An abstract class can contain both abstract methods and non-abstract methods. Abstract classes cannot be instantiated, but they can be subclassed. When an abstract class is subclassed, the subclass usually provides the implementations for all the abstract method in its parent class. The example is shown in the figure. So let's move to the next question. The next question is what is the final keyword in Java? So there are three types of final keyword. First is final variable, next is final method, and the third is final class. So the value of the variable could not be changed once it is declared as final. For example, final int x is equals to 16. So this value is fixed. The next is final keyword is used as a method. A final keyword in a method that couldn't be overridden. It is a method if a method is marked as a final, then it can't be overridden by the subclass. The next is final used as a class. If a class is declared as a final, then the class couldn't be subclassed. No class can extend the final class. The next question is what is meant by singleton class? It is a class whose only one instance can be created at any given time in one JVM, that is in Java Virtual Machine. A class can be made singleton by making its constructor private. The singleton's purpose is to control object creation, limiting the number of objects to only one. Since there is only one singleton instance, any instance field of a singleton will occur only once per class, just like the static fields. Singletons often control access to resources such as database connection or the sockets. For example, if you have a license for only one connection for your database or your JDBC driver has the trouble with multi-threading, then the singleton makes sure that only one connection is made for that, or that only one thread can access the connection at given time. Here the example of the singleton class is given. So we have created a class that is public classes singleton example. In that class we have making the private static classic singleton example instance as null. Then we have created the private constructor for classic singleton example, which is exist only to defeat the instantiation. Then we have created a method getInstance. In that we have checking if instance is equals to null. Then we are creating the new classic singleton example instance and we are returning that instance. Thank you for watching today's session. If you are new to this channel, then subscribe to Learnaholic India and don't forget to click on the bell icon for latest video updates. If you like today's video, then like it, share it with your friends. Also, if you have any query, then please comment below. Remember one thing, sharing of knowledge is gaining of knowledge. That's it for today. Stay tuned for next video. Thank you.